All right, so the Trump administration wants to do away with the EB-5 visa program and replace it with this golden visa option. Now, a bit of background on the EB-5. This is a visa program where wealthy non-U.S. persons can effectively buy their way into the U.S. They can pay a fixed fee to get the visa, and then they can move to the U.S. and open a company, a local business, in certain designated areas. And the idea is find these areas that are in rural parts of the U.S. or in areas that have high unemployment and get some new capital in there, some new entrepreneurs, create a business, hire U.S.-based employees. Now, under this program, Trump wants to basically scrap that whole thing and replace it with this golden visa option where non-U.S. persons can buy in to U.S. residency. They can get a green card. There's a pathway to citizenship. And the price tag for this is going to be an upfront fee of $5 million. So we've got one clip here from President Trump speaking about this. So let's have a listen and we'll talk about it a little bit more.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very, very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we'll be able to sell maybe 1 million of these cards, maybe more than that. And if you add up the numbers, they're pretty good. As an example, 1 million cards would be worth $5 trillion. $5 trillion. Wow. And if you sell 10 million of the cards, that's a total of $50 trillion. Well, we have 35 trillion in debt. That'd be nice. So we'll see. We're going to be doing something.
Yeah, so quite an interesting concept. So the EB-5 program, as it stands now, has a limit on how many people can do this, and the fee is much less than 5 million. It's between 1 and 2 million, and I think the applications are capped somewhere around a little over 12,000. So if we have a look at this article here, so the high dollar visa would replace the current EB-5 immigrant visa program for foreign job creators. And Trump and his Commerce Secretary have basically said that the program itself is basically ripe with a lot of fraud. It's being misused. And so this program is basically, it sounds like there's going to be less strings attached. So if you show up, there won't be any cap on the number of applications that can be sent out. As you heard him say there, he's throwing out numbers like 1 million, 10 million applications, which would certainly raise a lot of money for the federal government. Now, it's certainly too early, so there's no details on what additional requirements would be met. My guess is if you're looking to raise that much money and submit that many applications, you really can't limit where people would want to set up their business or move to. Under the EB-5 program, there were a lot of limits on where you could move to, where you can launch your business, and the idea was to try to push non-U.S. money into areas that were less developed in the U.S., had high unemployment, and so they wanted to place them in cities and states where they really needed the growth. Now, the EB-5 program, if we have a look at some of the data here, so in 2024, they maxed out how many they could issue. So in 2024, a total of a little over 12,000 unreserved EB-5 issues were processed, and the last ones were done in October. So they didn't even make it the full year before they reached that cap. Now, what's interesting is where most of these applications are coming from. So if we look at the country-specific EB-5 trends, you can see here at the very top of the list, close to 70% of these applications are coming from individuals that are based in mainland China. Vietnam, well far behind, but still quite a few in the number 2 spot. Then India, Taiwan. South Korea, South Africa, Hong Kong, Venezuela, Brazil, and then Mexico. So I imagine that if you open it up, this number of applications from China will certainly skyrocket. China has, I think the latest count was they had the most billionaires in the world, and they've certainly got a lot of millionaires as well. Now, this program isn't unique to the U.S. There's a lot of countries that have these kind of programs. Some of the more popular ones are found in the Caribbean, so places like St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Dominica, you can pay a couple $100,000 and you can get citizenship, you get that extra passport, and there's usually very short processing times, sometimes as little as like 3 to 12 months. You can get citizenship in these countries, and you don't even have to visit the country to do it. You can do all the applications, all the paperwork online. Now, other countries have a little more stringent requirements. The price point is a bit higher, 750,000, upwards of $1 million. I think Malta might be $1 million, maybe even $2 million now. And a lot of these countries also require that you do move there, right? So you can invest and you can pay the fees, but you do have to live there. You've got to have some presence. But in this case, what Trump is proposing sounds like this will be for people that certainly want to move to the U.S. to live and work. They want to move to the U.S. to start a business. So it could be quite good for the country, to be frank. I mean, I think that apart from the $5 million fee, by bringing all these other people into the U.S. tax net, that could also help as well. So remember, he mentioned these are individuals that are now going to be paying U.S. taxes. We have to remember that when you become a U.S. tax resident, you are now subject to taxes on your global income, not just what you earn in the U.S. So if you have wealthy individuals coming from countries like China or India, Vietnam, and they have income that's being sourced around the world, all of that income is now going to be captured in the U.S. tax net unless you have things like foreign tax credits or other exclusions that might apply. But I would imagine, I'm guessing he's got some people really looking at the math on this and finding that even if you set aside the $5 million entry fee, what that would bring to the country, and also just the new businesses and the taxes that would be paid on the new businesses by roping in all of these non-residents into the U.S. tax net, could mean a lot of additional income for the federal government. Yeah, so it would be, it's quite fascinating. It's an interesting idea. I think that the EB-5 program does need some work. So I don't know if it makes sense to totally disband it, but if he wants to totally disband it and replace it with a new platform like this, maybe a good idea, not a bad thing for the country. So something to certainly watch and keep track of. His projections, I mean, we all know how President Trump is. Some of his projections are a little outlandish. I don't know if you can actually persuade 1 million people a year or in total to buy into this program. Maybe certainly not 10 million, but it'd be interesting to see what the demand is for this and how many people actually take advantage of it and jump on board. So something to keep an eye on. And so that covers it for this update. I thought that was quite interesting idea to try to raise some additional revenue for the federal government, because like he noted, the amount of debt is in the $36 trillion range. So need to make some more money to keep chopping away at that balance. All right, so that covers it for this video. Hope that was interesting. I appreciate you watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you on the next one.